The Williams trial. To any experienced forensic fiber examiner, the fiber evidence linking Williams to the murder victims was overwhelming. But regardless of the apparent validity of the fiber findings, it was during the trial that its true weight would be determined. Unless it could be conveyed meaningfully to a jury, its effect would be lost. Because of this, considerable time was spent determining what should be done to convey the full significance of the fiber evidence. Juries are not usually composed of individuals with a scientific background, and therefore it was necessary to educate the jury in what procedures were followed and the significance of the fiber results. In the Williams case, over 40 charts with over 350 photographs were prepared to illustrate exactly what the crime laboratory examiners had observed. Representatives of the textile industry, including technical representatives from the Wellman and West Point Pepperell corporations, were involved in educating the jury regarding textile fibers in general and helped lay the foundation for the conclusions of the forensic fiber examiners. The jury also was told about fiber analysis in the crime laboratory. The trial, as it developed, can be divided into two parts. Initially, testimony was given concerning the murders of Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne, the two victims included in the indictment drawn against Williams in July 1981. Testimony was then given concerning Williams' association with 10 other murder victims. The fiber matches made between fibers in Williams' environment and fibers from victims Payne and Cater were discussed. The items from Williams' environment that were linked to either or both of the victims are shown in the center of the chart. See Figure 1. Not only is Payne linked to Williams' environment by 7 items and Cater linked by 6 items, but both of the victims are linked strongly to each other based on the fiber matches and circumstances surrounding their deaths. In discussing the significance or strength of an association based on textile fibers, it was emphasized that the more uncommon the fibers, the stronger the association. None of the fiber types from the items in Williams' environment shown in the center of Figure 1 is by definition a common fiber type. Several of the fiber types would be termed uncommon. One of the fibers linking the body of Jimmy Ray Payne to the carpet in the 1970 station wagon driven by Williams was a small rayon fiber fragment recovered from Payne's shorts. Data was obtained from the station wagon's manufacturer concerning which automobile models produced prior to 1973 contained carpet made of this fiber type. Make sure you pause and look at Figure 1 here. These data were coupled with additional information from Georgia concerning the number of these models registered in the Atlanta metropolitan area during 1981. This allowed a calculation to be made relating to the probability of randomly selecting an automobile having carpet like that in the 1970 Chevrolet station wagon. From the 2,372,512 cars registered in the Atlanta metropolitan area, this probability is 1 chance in 3,828, a very low probability representing a significant association. Another factor to consider when assessing the significance of fiber evidence is the increased strength of the association when multiple fiber matches become the basis of the association. This is true if different fiber types from more than one object are found and each fiber type either links two people together or links an individual with a particular environment. As the number of different objects increases, the strength of an association increases dramatically. That is, the chance of randomly finding several particular fiber types in a certain location is much smaller than the chance of finding one particular fiber type. The following example can be used to illustrate the significance of multiple fiber matches linking two items together. If one were to throw a single die one time, the chance or probability of throwing a particular number would be 1 chance in 6. The probability of throwing a second die and getting that same number also would be 1 chance in 6. However, the probability of getting 2 of the same numbers on 2 dice thrown simultaneously is only 1 in every 36 double throws, a much smaller chance than with either of the single throws. This number is a result of the product rule of probability theory. That is, the probability of the joint occurrence of a number of mutually independent events equals the product of the individual probabilities of each of the events. In this example, 1/6 times 1/6 equals 1/36. Since numerous fiber types are in existence, the chance of finding one particular fiber type other than a common type in a specific randomly selected location is small. The chance then of finding several fiber types together in a specific location is the product of several small probabilities, resulting in an extremely small chance. However, no attempt was made to use the product rule and multiply the individual probability numbers together to get an approximation of the probability of finding carpets from Williams' residential carpet and Williams' automobile carpet in the same household. The probability numbers were used only to show that the individual fiber types involved in these associations were very uncommon. In addition to the two probability numbers already discussed, bedroom and station wagon carpets, each of the other fiber types linking Williams to both Cater and Payne had a probability of being found in a particular location. The chance of finding all of the fiber types indicated on the chart, figure 1, in one location, 7 types on Payne's body and 6 types on Cater's body, would be extremely small. Although an actual probability number for those findings could not be determined, it is believed that the multiple fiber associations shown in this chart are proof that Williams is linked to the bodies of these two victims, even though each fiber match by itself does not show a positive association with Williams' environment. Studies have been conducted in England that show that transferred fibers are usually lost rapidly as people go through their daily routine. Therefore, the foreign fibers present on a person are most often from recent surroundings. The fibrous debris found on a murder victim reflects the body's more recent surroundings, especially important if the body was moved after the killing. Accordingly, the victims' bodies in this particular case are not only associated with Williams, but are apparently associated with Williams shortly before or after their deaths. It was also pointed out during the trial that the location of the fibers on Payne's shorts and in Cater's head hairs and pubic hairs were not those where one would expect to find fibrous debris transferred from an automobile or a car to victims who had been fully clothed. Although from these findings it would appear that the victims were in the residence of Williams, there was one other location that contained many of the same fibers as those in the composition of various objects in his residence, Williams' station wagon. The environment of a family automobile might be expected to reflect, to some extent, fibers from objects located within the residence. This was true of the 1970 station wagon. With one exception, all of the fiber types removed from Payne and Cater, consistent with originating from items shown in the center of figure 1, were present in debris removed by vacuuming the station wagon. The automobile would be the most logical source of the foreign fibers found on both Payne and Cater if they were associated with Williams shortly before or after their deaths. It should also be pointed out that two objects, the bedspread and the blanket, were portable and could have at one time been present inside the station wagon. Both Payne and Cater were recoverable from the Chattahoochee River. Their bodies had been in the water for several days. Some of the fibers found on these victims were like fibers in the compositions of the bedroom carpet and bedspread, except for color intensity. They appeared to have been bleached. By subjecting various known fibers to small amounts of Chattahoochee River water for different periods of time, it was found that bleaching did occur. This was especially true with the carpet and bedspread fibers from the Williams bedroom. 2 crime laboratory examiners testified during the closing stages of the first part of the trial about Williams' association with Payne and Cater. They concluded that it was highly unlikely that any environment other than the present in Wayne Williams' house and car could have resulted in the combination of fibers and hairs found on the victims, and that it would be virtually impossible to have matched so many fibers found on Cater and Payne to items in Williams' house and car unless the victims were in contact with or in some way associated with the environment of Wayne Williams. After testimony was presented concerning the Payne and Cater cases, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office asked the court to be allowed to introduce evidence in the cases of 10 other victims whose murders were similar in many respects. Georgia law allows evidence of another crime to be introduced if some logical connection can be shown between the two, from which it can be said that proof of the one tends to establish the other as relevant to some fact other than general bad character. There needs to be no conviction for the other crime in order for details about that crime to be admissible. It was ruled that evidence concerning other murders could be introduced in an attempt to prove a pattern or scheme of killing that included the 2 murders which Williams was charged. The additional evidence in these cases was to be used to help the jury decide whether Williams had committed the 2 murders with which he is charged. There were similarities between these additional victims and Payne and Cater. See Figure 2. Although some differences can also be seen on this chart, the prosecution considered these differences to fit within the pattern of killing, of which Payne and Cater were a part. The most important similarities between these additional victims were the fiber matches that linked 9 of the 10 victims to Williams' environment, the fiber findings discussed during the trial and used to associate Williams to the 12 victims were illustrated during the trial. See Figure 3. The 12 victims were listed in chronological order based on the dates their bodies were recovered. The time period covered by this chart, approximately 22 months, is from July 1979 until May 1981. During that time period, the Williams family had access to a large number of automobiles, including a number of rental cars. 3 of these automobiles are listed at the top of Figure 3. If one or more of the cars was in the possession of the Williams family at the time a victim was found to be missing, the space under the car and after the particular victim's name is shaded. 4 objects, including the dog from Williams' residence, are listed horizontally across the top of Figure 3, along with objects from 3 of his automobiles. An X on the chart indicates an apparent transfer of textile fibers from the listed object to a victim. Other objects from Williams' environment, which were linked to various victims by an apparent fiber transfer, are listed on the right side of the chart. Fiber types from objects never actually located that were matched to fiber types from one or more victims are also listed either at the top or on the right side of the chart. 14 specific objects and 5 fiber types, probably from 5 other objects, listed on this chart are linked to one or more of the victims. More than 28 different fiber types, along with the dog hairs, were used to link up to 19 objects from Williams' environment to one or more of the victims. Make sure you pause and look at Figure 2 and Figure 3. Of the more than 28 fiber types from Williams' environment, 14 of these originated from a rug or carpet. The combination of more than 28 different fiber types would not be considered so significant if they were primarily common fiber types. In fact, there is only one light green cotton fiber of the 28 that might be considered common. This cotton fiber was blended with acetate fibers in Williams' bedspread. Light green cotton fibers removed from many victims were not considered or compared unless they were physically intermingled with violet acetate fibers, which were consistent with originating from the bedspread. It should be noted that a combination of cotton and acetate fibers blended together in a single textile material, as in the bedspread, is in itself uncommon. The previous discussion concerning the significance of multiple fiber matches can be applied to the associations made in the cases of all the victims except Bell, but especially to the association of Patrick Baltazar to Williams' environment. Fibers and animal hairs consistent with having originated from 10 sources were removed from Baltazar's body. These 10 sources include the uncommon bedroom carpet and the station wagon carpet. In addition to the fiber and animal hair linkage, 2 head hairs of Negroid origin were removed from Baltazar's body that were consistent with originating from the scalp area of Williams. Head hair matches were also very significant in linking Williams to Baltazar's body. In the opinion of the author, the association based upon the hair and fiber analyses is a positive association. Another important aspect of the fiber linkage between Williams and these victims is the correspondence between the fiber findings and the time periods during which Williams had access to the 3 automobiles listed on the chart. 9 victims are linked to automobiles used by the Williams family. When Williams did not have access to a particular car, no fibers were recovered that were consistent with having originated from that automobile. Trunk liner fibers of the type used in the trunks of many late-model Ford Motor Company automobiles were also recovered from the bodies of 2 victims. One final point should be made concerning Williams's bedroom and station wagon carpets were probability numbers that had been determined. Fibers consistent with having originated from both of these unusual carpets were recovered from Payne's body. Of the 9 victims who were killed during the time period when Williams had access to the 1970 station wagon, fibers consistent with having originated from both the station wagon carpet and the bedroom carpet were recovered from 6 of these victims. The apparent bleaching of several fibers removed from the bodies of Payne and Cater were consistent with having been caused by river water. Several fibers similar to those from Payne and Cater were removed from many of the victims whose bodies were recovered on land. Consistent with the bleaching argument, none of the fibers from the victims found on land showed any apparent bleaching. The findings of many of the same fiber types of the remaining victims who were recovered from many different locations refutes the possibility that Payne's and Cater's bodies picked up foreign fibers from the river. The fact that many of the victims were involved with so many of the same fiber types, all of which linked the victims to Williams' environment, is the basis for arguing conclusively against these fibers originating from a source other than Williams' environment. It is hoped that this article has provided a valuable insight concerning the use of fiber evidence in a criminal trial and has provided answers to questions from those in the law enforcement community about textile fiber evidence in general, and has presented convincing arguments to establish Wayne Williams' association with the bodies of the murder victims.